Hello, my name is Wendy Dela Cruz and I'm the District Assessment Specialist, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about the end of year checklist for Eduphoria Aware. All the steps in this video are great ways to close out this school year, that way we're ready and fresh for the next school year. First, I'm going to go through all of the steps, and then if you need any support knowing how to do any of these things, stick around to the end of the video and I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing you want to do relates to your assessments. You want to archive all of your assessments, whether they're teacher tests, team tests, or campus tests. I would highly encourage all teachers to share any teacher tests that they used this year to a team. That way those assessments can be reused by the team in the future, and also that data can be analyzed by administrators to support your PLC conversations. Another important thing to consider for assessments, any assessments, teacher, team, or campus assessments, is to rename them, even if you have already completed those assessments. At the very least, I would encourage you to include your campus name in the name of your assessment. That way it can be analyzed more easily by people on campus. All of that can be done on the Assessments tab. The next thing is to archive all forms, but make sure that all users have completed all their updates on that form. So if you have a SPED teacher or co-teacher, anybody else that's also adding information to the form for that student, make sure that you're in communication with them before you archive it. The other thing is, do not archive forms for students who will be attending summer school or SSI. That way those summer school teachers are able to edit and add any information that they need to. And that is done all on the Students tab. The next thing is, if you're a teacher or administrator who created a monitor list, you could go ahead and delete that monitor list now. It will automatically be removed from your account about a year after you created it, but if you have no further need for it, you might as well go ahead and delete it now. The other thing is, if you're an administrator and you've created any monitor groups that are specific to this year only and would not apply next year, then I would encourage you to go ahead and clean up your monitor groups and delete those as well. And that can be done on the Students tab. The next thing is related to the scanner and the brother driver for when you're scanning answer documents. These things can be done in the Software Center. In January 2021, there was an update pushed out for the Aware plain paper scanner, and if you have not performed that update, I would highly encourage you to do that. It could relieve any scanning errors that you may be experiencing. The other thing is, if you have not downloaded the brother driver since you received your teacher laptop in the 1920 school year, then you might want to go ahead and consider downloading that brother driver and getting that set up. The final thing applies only to teachers of record. On the Analyze tab, I would highly encourage you to export and save any of your current student data that you might be using for your PLC conversations and your own professional learning. So for example, if you want to examine how your students did across learning standards on particular assessments, compare this year's students to how next year's students performed, then that would be a good idea to go ahead and download now, because once the rosters roll over next year, over the summer, then you will no longer have access to how your students in this current school year did compare to your next current school year. So I would encourage you to go ahead and do that, and that is done on the Analyze tab. If you know how to do all of those steps, then I wish you a happy summer, and I thank you so much for all of your efforts in supporting your students using Eduphoria Aware. If you have any questions or need any support, of course you can always reach out to me or Brandy Merriman. So now I'm going to show you how to archive assessments and also rename them. To do that, we're going to come to the Assessments tab. And we're going to open up our Teacher Test folder. I'm going to find one of my assessments. And the first thing that I'm going to do is, because it was a teacher test, I'm going to share it with the team. That way we can use it again next year, and also my administrators can help me analyze the data over time. Choose your team. You may have one or multiple, and then convert test to team test. You can only do that one time, so make sure you share it with the appropriate team. Afterwards, I'm going to change the status. It reverted to pending once I shared it to a team, even though it was active before, and I'm going to archive it. Make sure you go through and do that for each and every assessment. Archiving assessments are important, especially if I'm going to be using assessments multiple times over the years. It allows the data from one year to be completely separate from data for students in another year that take the same assessment. I'm also going to check that I have my naming conventions on here. I've got my school name, I've got my grade level, the unit, and then the time of year. But if I open up another one of my assessments, this one only has levels of counting. Even though my students have taken this assessment, I can go ahead and put my campus, my grade level, and my subject area. I can also give it a time of year also. Once I do that, again, archive my assessments. Make sure to go through and do that for all of your teacher tests and all of your team tests. You likely won't have as many as I do because I'm in the demo site. Now I'm going to show you how to archive all student forums. Again, remember that you should not do this until after all of the teachers or administrators who would be collaborating on a student forum have finished editing that form, so make sure you're in good communication. And also I'm going to do this only for my students who are not going to be attending summer school. To do this, I'm going to come to the Students tab. You can search for students by name, or you can type in the word all and pull up all my students, and you'll get a list of all your students. Click on a student. You'll open up their profile, go to Forums. Once you find the form, click View. And if you need to make any changes, of course you can, but once you are finished, you're going to click Archive right here, this little filing cabinet. Are you sure you want to deactivate this form? Yes, I am, because I know I have finished making all the edits, and so have all the teachers that would be collaborating on this, and I press OK. Once you do that, you'll notice that it has been archived, it's grayed out, and I'm not going to be able to edit it, but I will be able to still view it. The next thing that I'm going to do is delete any monitor lists or monitor groups. To do that, I'm going to stay on the Students tab. I'm going to come down here to manage my monitor lists. And you can see all the monitor lists that I have right now in the demo site. I can just select one, press delete. It will ask me if I'm sure I'm no longer going to be able to view those students' information. Are you sure you want to continue? If this is the very end of the school year, I have no more reason, no more need to have access to this student data, I'm going to go ahead and press OK. If you still need access to it until the end of the year, wait until you are finished accessing that student data before you delete it. Otherwise, you'll have to put in and get a new monitor list approved. Once you do that, go through and delete any and all monitor lists that you have no more need to access. Now I'm going to show you, if you're an administrator, how to delete monitor groups. So I had to jump over into my administrator demo account. I'm still on the Students tab, but I'm going to come down below and I'm going to see Manage Monitor Groups. If you also have a monitor list as an administrator, you can do that as well. But here for the monitor groups, and I'm going to open up whichever ones I have access to, and I can click on that group if that's the one that I want to delete. That's the one that I have no longer a need for. It's only tied to this year's students. It's not anything that I would want to continue monitoring next year. I'm going to select it and press delete. If you have need to continue using a monitor group, or if you just want to update the list of students, you can do that next year. But if you are finished with that monitor group, it's just good practice to go and clean that up. To make sure that my scanner is updated and or my brother driver is downloaded, I'm going to come to the Software Center. Now I have already updated my Aware scanner, but if I had not, then I would just type in Aware and then search for the different scanners. If you're aware, Plain Paper Scanner software version is 3.0.10, then that is the outdated version. The version you want is this version right here. It's going to start with PPS, and it's going to say version 3.1.0. That's the version that you want to search for, and go ahead and install. There's no need to uninstall your previous version, just install this new version and it will replace the other one. The other thing that you want to make sure you have installed is the Brother driver version G2, and that should be in the Software Center. You can go ahead and install it and follow the instructions off of our Aware scanner site. This is a one-time installation, so if you have not installed it again on your new laptop that you received, or you are a new teacher this year and you have not installed it, it would be a good idea to go ahead and install it now. That way you have it all set up for next year. So the last thing that I'm going to show is how to download and export relevant data for teachers of record for their assessments this year. That way they can support their PLC conversations and professional learning for next year. So to do that, I'm going to go to my Analyze tab, and you could either choose to open up one particular class, but because this teacher is a departmentalized elementary school teacher, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I open up all my students. That way I get all of my student data all in one list. Same thing goes for all your secondary teachers as well. Might as well just get all your student data in one go. I'm going to drill down to the assessment that I want to open. So for example, kinder counting is a very important skill that I'm tracking over time, and I want to make sure that my students are getting better over time as I work through the PLC process with the other teachers on my grade level, and also as I develop my craft as a professional. So I'm going to go ahead and export this data, the overall percentages, that way I can compare it to next year when I get the same assessment. Once I open it up, I'm going to switch to my student learning standard breakdown. That way I get exactly which skill and how the students did. Now, I'm not particularly interested in these student-specific data. That's not going to help me. What I want to know is how my students did overall, like as a class average. So I could either switch to the teacher summary, and I could download that. That's going to be my teacher summary because this was only my 20 students that gave this test. If there were other teachers on the grade level who also gave this team test, you might get all of their data as well so that you could have those conversations. If I switched to the stack of books, then I could actually look at a course average and then different teachers' class periods, which would be very helpful if you were looking at different class periods. Maybe you're a secondary teacher and you want to look at different class periods. If you're just interested in overall averages, then you can just look at the teacher summary and that will give you those overall averages. Once I get it in the form that I want, I can export it to Excel, open up that file, and save it for next year. Again, thank you so much for everything you do in supporting your students, and as always, I hope you have a great summer, and if you need any support, you know who to reach out to. Thank you.